365 Sports, Josh Neighbors in for his weekly segment as we go over the Big 12. Josh Neighbors, of course, is Big 12 Watch, and find him on YouTube at Big 12 Watch. Josh, let's start out with the game tonight. The biggest surprise and success maybe of the season, even maybe more so than Iowa State, because we thought Iowa State would be pretty good, maybe not as good as they've been, but number 13 BYU hosts Oklahoma State tonight. And Oklahoma State, one of the biggest, if not the biggest disappointment maybe in the Big 12, starting a new quarterback. Is this Mike Gundy looking to next year and seeing if he's got anything at that position, or if he needs to go to the now T. Boone Pickens list money bags and say, please get me a quarterback?
Yeah, I think the issue I've had is that they have not really given Garrett Rangel the reins, right? They haven't done that, and they haven't really given him that opportunity. So let's hope that they do that and they're able to just give him that fair shot. But the fact that he hasn't really broken through yet is a touch concerning, but still, he deserves that full shot and that chance. And he's been around a bit for a while and was a pretty big prospect. I mean, I have been on record of talking about Alan Bowman before, so I'm not going to keep beating the dead horse here about how I never thought he was that good and don't think he's that good. And, it's the old adage, or at least not an old adage, but like the old idea. It's like, hey, is Trent Dilfer a Super Bowl winning quarterback, or is he on a team that won a Super Bowl? Right. Is the same thing we said about Brad Johnson. Like Peyton Manning's corpse was on the Denver Broncos. I wouldn't say it was like he won them the Super Bowl. Alan Bowman was on a Big 12 championship team, or a team that went to the Big 12 championship. I wouldn't say he was like a Big 12 championship caliber quarterback. He had some good games, but it never felt like he carried them. So, I had some questions because especially at his age, like he wasn't going to get much better, and things didn't get better. And teams keyed in the run and said, hey, can you beat us? And in the beginning he did, but, he not like a super high level of competition besides Arkansas, which that Arkansas win continues to get better. So, yeah, I was skeptical from the beginning, and yeah, we're starting to head towards a place where it looks like they might have to go shopping, which they should have done before. But, we'll see if they can find a new one in the portal, or if, they can get a freshman in there maybe.
Yeah, and we don't know if Ollie Gordon's going to play or not. We don't know, like, all these things that are mysterious about Oklahoma State now. And BYU's just been really tough. Like, they will fight you in the street. Like, they will absolutely
They will exclusively fight you in the street, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
That is the only way they will play.
Yeah, like that's the way they are. Jake Retzlaff has been the most improved player in the conference probably. And not that he's, again, ripping it up like statistically, but he's helping them win. He's not getting them beat. So he's not Zach Wilson, but guess what? When you have a defense like this and a running game like they have, and receivers that make plays at key times, you don't really need Zach Wilson if you're BYU.
Yeah, I mean, he's taken 5 sacks on the year, which is, through 6 games, pretty good, right? So protecting him well, and he's not, not getting sacked a ton. 14 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. On average, like his average, throws like 8 yards. So, I mean, this is not a super explosive offense, right? They have hit some long passing plays, right? But the longest passing play of the year for them is 57 yards. So, I mean, they've hit a few of those, and then their longest rush of the year is pretty crazy, 37 yards. So this is not super, super explosive. But what they do is they capitalize. And actually, I wish I had the red zone numbers in front of me, but like you have to imagine they're pretty good. And they turn teams over a ton. And, for them, like, they're 50th in passing yards per game, 86th in rush yards per game. But like they're top 40, 35 in points scored just because like they're really they're opportunistic. And that's what good teams do. I think if your team plays basically throws a perfect game against them, how it will go, I think they'll win. But like you look at the best teams they've played, they thumped K-State, and they thumped Arizona too. SMU and Baylor were the 2 closer ones, right? So now here comes a big test. I got Oklahoma State at UCF, and I know UCF's falling apart at Utah. Utah's kind of falling apart a little bit too. KU at Arizona State and Houston. I mean, is it crazy to say at Arizona State is like the toughest game left in their schedule? Is that crazy to say?
Yeah, no, it's
what
not.
In the world has happened?
Yeah, it is. It is like it's Hey, and good for the, like, this is what we wanted, like we expected in the Big 12. Is like, this is going to be this, and I think the ACC will be this to some extent too. But the Big 12 will really be this, of the most fluid conference in the country year over year. Like they're like, you will not be able to perch yourself at the top of this and then wait for the next challenger and then smack them away like Oklahoma did for so long.
Yeah, I mean what's funny is this was a story even when Texas and OU were in the league to the end, right?
Yeah.
Like I made this point a ton on the shows, I was on it, like 2020 Iowa State Oklahoma, 2021 Baylor Oklahoma State, 2022 K-State TCU, 2023 we had our first repeat. It was Oklahoma State though that was repeating, and then Texas. So I mean 7 different teams in 8 years, 4 separate champions in those, or excuse me, in those 4 years, 7 separate teams, 4 separate champions. And yeah, I mean, year over year, the competition level in this league, like it's just these programs get built. Like to win at these programs, you have to build, and you kind of can live in a certain area, right? You can live at 7, 8, 9 wins, and TCUs can happen too. But like, you kind of need that jump where you say, okay, this is, we have a good team, but this is the year where everybody's old and it all makes sense and everybody's playing really, really well. And so it's kind of the things coalesce around these teams and they peak. But then you kind of have to you get knocked down a peg and you have to rebuild. And that's what this league is kind of built on. It's just a matter of like where, identifying who those teams are. Cause it feels like it makes sense when these teams start winning, maybe BYU, not as much, but it's kind of hard to identify them sometimes because we're like, hey, these teams look great. And all of a sudden TCU's unbelievable and you're at number 1 against Sonny Dykes. So it can be a challenge to ID the teams, but it's going to be tough to keep yourself up top. I mean, I think we're going to have some of the same folks around the top, Utah, Oklahoma State, they'll be in that area, but to stay at the top, yikes, tough.
But look, I'll tell you a team I think, and you mentioned them, that has maybe unlimited growth potential if they can keep on the right track is Arizona State. Like they're sitting in a spot that is really like they can get, like, because of their location between Texas and California, they can get some guys to Tempe, with Kenny Dillingham that can make them good. But that leads me to this week against Cincinnati. I feel a little bit robbed because this is a game I was really kind of looking forward to because both teams have been very pleasant surprises. And now Sam Levitt, who is getting better every week, is going to be out for a little bit with that rib injury. And we'll see how good Kenny Dillingham is because the human fumble,
the Jeff Sims experience,
is coming. So, I would not be surprised if you are the offensive coordinator or the head coach. Instead of a water bottle, you just have somebody that just hands you a beer every time he fumbles. It's like, all right, good, all right.
He's essentially like Chase. He's like Chase Daniel in college. Like he's a career backup now.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what. The one thing Jeff Sims gives you is a rushing element. So if they can maybe pull some, and I'm not going to put it past Kenny Dillingham. If they can make that run game dynamic this week and they can block well up front, which will be the big challenge, against which should be a pretty heavy box, they have a chance. So I'm excited to see what the game plan is. But man, it looks like we have a special one on our hands, don't we? I mean, it just appears to, like, a lot of coaches say it's like we want our guys to come in, so we want guys who want to be here. But when he says it's like, we have to have people who want to be here. He goes, you will win if you are here. You can win with me. We want to keep guys in state. But like, he just has a really good understanding of his roster. And he knows he can get better players, and he thinks the players should come and play for him. It's hard to tell him no right now at the way he's coaching. But man, just like to see that, like, he gets it. And he's everything you want in a coach because, we're talking about like in basketball, like Tony Bennett stepping aside, Roy Williams, Kay, all stepping aside because the game's changing, and Nick Saban stepping aside in the football side of things. Kenny is kind of the snapshot of what you want, right? Mm-hmm. He's young, he's energetic, he reaches players, he can coach ball. Yeah. I mean, this guy's a star. He's an absolute superstar, it looks like. And I haven't even mentioned the fact that their program got put in a really crappy spot by the previous regime.
Yeah.
And he's had to dig them out of that in the new league. And he's just doing it one game at a time, one play at a time, one Cam Scatabo rush at a time.
Yeah.
It's a really good approach. It's a really solid, well-coached approach. And in the Texas State game, they got down 2 scores. There was no panic. They did not panic. Yeah. And that's a sign of a good leader.
Yeah. I would just tell, like, if you're a quarterback in particular, and nationally somebody had to hand me a resume of quarterbacks that he pulled from the abyss, and it's Jordan Travis and Bo Nix, like I'd be like, all right, there we go. Like, and that's maybe like, that's why like if I were Jeff Sims, that's where I would have gone. Like, my best shot at being a professional football player is going with someone who can, pull me out of it, because Bo Nix, was a guy who was, man, he has so much potential, but there's swaths of games where he's just not there. And then in the last 2 minutes, it's like he, breaks out of his stupor and does crazy stuff. And then he goes to Oregon with Kenny Dillingham, and he's one of the best players in the country and a Heisman candidate all year long, right? Then with Jordan Travis, he was ready to quit playing quarterback. Like, he was like, please move me to wide receiver. And Mike Norvell and Kenny Dillingham were like, the hell we will. You're our quarterback. Look what you can do. Do you understand what your ability is?
Right.
And then this is a guy who won 23 games in 2 years, right? That's what they made into those guys. So that's the guy I want to be. I'm a little disappointed this game's not going to be as good, though. But, yes, I love Kenny Dillingham, too. Houston and Kansas, we won't spend much time on it. But if Kansas loses this one, is this rock bottom?
Yeah. Yeah. That's all I'll say about the game.
Yeah. I mean, look, and Houston had the big win over TCU. I'm really curious to see how Zeon Christ progresses at QB and see what he is. But, yeah. Colorado and Arizona is an interesting one in that Arizona's okay. Like, I would just call them okay. They're okay. They've got a couple of stud players, but they need a little bit more depth. Colorado lost a really great game against Kansas State at home last week. They're making steps forward. Do you think this is one, and they're not favored in this game, this would be a huge one in Deion's corner to go on the road after a loss and win, which is obviously something he did not do before.
Yeah, the big numbers last week for them were, I mean, I didn't see the rushing success rate for them, but we're getting to appalling numbers. I mean, Shador ends up getting sacked, 6 times in that game last week. Part of that's on him, parts of the line. You still take that out. They ran the ball 10 times for 21 yards. Mm-hmm. Their longest rush between those three guys, the 2 guys,
4 yards.
Augustov and Hayden, was 4 yards. So, like, you need to be able to do something else. I know that one pitch they have is pretty good when they throw the ball around, but Travis Hunter is injured. So this big test. They went without Travis Hunter, that'd be huge. But they did a pretty good job stopping the run last week. I mean, I think like 4.3 a carry against K-State's not terrible, and 26 yards, the longest rush for DJ Giddens. I know he was 7.3 per carry, but did a pretty good job on Dylan Edwards. Avery Johnson didn't have a ton of success. They did get in the backfield some last week. So I think it's a little bit, I think it's an improved team. I really do. I mean, 31 points to win that game. Like, that's not bad. It's, it's just like I think Colorado could be better if they treat it like the different stuff personnel wise. Like, it's not like well, like, we can only pick wide receivers or offensive linemen. It's like you could do both. Like, or it's like, pass rushers or wide receivers. Like, I think they could do both. So they just need work in like the heavy hitter areas, where you win games, where when you win, where 6 wins goes to 8 wins, where 8 wins goes to 10, the trenches. That's where you get that. And they did put some work on the offensive line. They need more of that, though, I think, between the tackles.
Baylor goes to Texas Tech after the bye. Tech going along really well now, 5-1. This is not a place historically Baylor has ever done well in Lubbock, except for 2 years ago. They went and really took it to Tech, and that was kind of the last. I want to say that was the last really good win of the Dave Aranda era right now, because since that game in particular, the wheels have been different shades of off. And while this is a better Baylor team, Robertson's going to play in his hometown, all of that stuff, they'll probably score a little bit here. they can't stop the run. Taj Brooks, if you want to know who the actual best running back in the Big 12 was going to be this year, it's Taj Brooks. I mean, there's some – Cam Scadaboo has some claim to that, but Taj Brooks, as he goes, so goes the Tech offense. And, the one game he didn't play, they lost. So if Taj Brooks gets loose, and he got loose all over Baylor last year, I just don't see Baylor having a shot in this one.
Yeah, I mean, he's such a consistent runner. He's not a home run guy. Like, his longest rush is 35 yards. And the reason why it's important, and I mention this all the time, with Zach Kitley's offense, with the pace that they go, it's very, very important for them to be able to have a changeup. And, it's like watching a pitcher. Like, you can't just throw fastballs all the time. You can't just challenge fastball. Especially, like, their fastball is pretty good, but, like, they can get stopped. And if you throw 55 times a game, you're gonna have some incompletions. And if multiple incompletions happen in a row, your defense will be on the field a lot. So it's important. And Zach Kitley realized this last year that Taj Brooks gets more involved in the rushing game. And he's what paces their offense. Every fast pace, like veer and shoot, like all those offenses in the end of the day do want to run the ball, especially, well, they don't really run at the pros, but like especially in college, just because, some of these guys, like these college quarterbacks, aren't always amazing. Seeing Tennessee go through this right now. Like, they need to run the ball already more than they do because Nico's not as accurate. I think Barron's pretty good. He looks like he's a lot healthier, and he's had a really good season. There's a good chance here, Paul, that Texas Tech could run this thing to 7-1. They have got a home game against Baylor this week, like you mentioned. They've got at TCU next week, and then they're at Iowa State. So, they could be 7-1 going on the road November 2nd against Iowa State, and what a game that really could put them in Big 12 championship contention. I'll tell you this. Like, their defense to me is not a lot better, but in a league that the Big 12 just feels a bit down this year,
is it better enough? Like, that's the question.
That's what I'm wondering. Is
it needs to be better enough?
Like, they're basically like 3 turnovers. Like, if they get the right turnover at the right time in certain games, they're going to be right there.
If you score 38-45 a game, you don't need your defense to be
lights
elite.
Out.
You just need it to be good. Like, you'd like it to be great.
Or just like create a couple extra scoring opportunities for your offense.
Yeah,
like let your offense punches in. So, if you can flip, if you can get me a turnover, on their side of the field, like the offense that good, you can give up touchdowns the rest of the time. We'll just take care of the rest, extra possession, extra 7, kind of that type deal. And then also if you can be decent enough in the red zone. Yeah. And I'm not sure what the red zone numbers are, but you look at the last couple games, like 2 of the last 3, Arizona State scores 22 points, and then Arizona scores 22 points. So, that's good. That's good enough for me, at least.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Let's run through a couple of these here at the end. UCF, Ja'Curry Brown starting this week. The Miami transfer, really athletic guy, but again, it's not established himself as a starter anywhere. This is bad news for that KJ Jefferson transfer. Not a great place for your first start on the road against this number 9 Iowa State team that is really, really good.
Yeah, it's not that's not the matchup we want. UCF's got kind of like the talent to really screw up a team like Iowa State's season, but just this spot, like, this is where you lean on your defense. This is where, you get after the quarterback, you make a young guy pay. And Iowa State's been very good. They're 5th in the country in points against, right? They're scoring 31 a game. They're giving up 11. They're not even top 50 in offense, and they're outscoring their opponents by 20 every game. And, it's a balanced attack, rush and pass. They've got I think Rocco, to me, Paul, I think there's still a lot of room for him to grow and get better. I think it's a guy who's got a lot ahead of him. And you look at last week, they put the chokehold on West Virginia, and they squeeze. Actually, the box score kind of bears this out. First quarter 7, second 3, third 0, fourth 6. At that point, the game was kind of getting out of reach territory. And West Virginia under 5 yards a carry. They won the game by 2 scores. Iowa State did. And they didn't even rush for 3 yards a carry. Their longest was 14 yards. Now, they did hit some explosive pass plays, but that's just them identifying where West Virginia's weak and hitting them there. So they're just really good at managing matchups. And this is a matchup I think they're going to get at. It's green light, it's go zone, it's get after a young quarterback.
Yep. All right, Kansas State at West Virginia. Is this one considering that there's going to have planes flying over with Fire Neil Brown, maybe more important than it normally would be?
Yeah. I mean, look, they're not beating anybody. Like, they're 2-1 in the league, sure, but like they've had all these opportunities against teams that have kind of been. Penn State is a good team. They lost by 22. Pittsburgh, good team, lost by 4. Iowa State, good team, lost by 12. The teams they've beaten are Albany, KU, and Oklahoma State. Do we think any of those teams are good?
No.
So what's changed from last year? They didn't beat many good teams last year.
Yeah.
And they're not doing it this year. And that's that, like, for Neil Brown, like, that was the big challenge to me was, can you take a step up with this offense, and will Garrett Green get better? And the 3-headed rushing attack too. Like, can you turn all of that into results? And could you be better as a team, even though your record wasn't any better? Well, it turns out the record probably won't be any better, and the team isn't much better. And so that's why we're back to, I'm not saying we got to fire him now. I want to see how this season goes, but like it's right to ask the question, because last season was not like, you're great, you're all good, dust you off, polished you off, you're our head coach now. No, you had to have that 9-win year, and you gave that to us. Thank you. But like, we need to see more sustained results, especially with a team that's as old as this team is at the positions that matter a lot. So yeah, I mean, it's a great spot to be at home. You're glad it's a home game. It's a night game, but this is where you got to put your foot in the ground. And if you win this game, Paul, you got at Arizona, at Cincinnati. It's 2 difficult games. Baylor, UCF, and at Tech. So you're not out of the Big 12 championship hunt if you win this game.
Yeah.
Can this be the catalyst for them? But this is kind of like any kind of upward trajectory West Virginia program type deal, stacking great seasons back to really good seasons back to back. This is it hinges on this game. You have to win this game to prove that to me and to everybody else.
All right. Last but not least, the old man is sidelined and Cam Rising. Isaac Wilson's the guy for the rest of the year. TCU's been flailing. I still have Utah.
Is that for sure? Is that for sure? Or is it indefinite?
What?
Is Cam Rising done for the year?
He's out.
Done for the year?
Done for the year. Yeah, done for the year. So
because I heard Whittingham say indefinite at the beginning of the week. I didn't know if it was.
Yeah. No, he's out for the year. So now we talk about his potential 8th year, which he is eligible for.
Okay. I'm going to say this very nicely. I think Cam Rising should go pro in something other than sports. I think we can all agree it's maybe time for that.
Well, at Enterprise Rent-A-Car, they give you the tools to be successful.
They do. Honestly, like, I feel like Cam Rising could be a coach immediately.
Yeah,
like, I really think he's a smart dude. I think people like him. Mm-hmm. Like, people really, really like the guy.
Yeah.
It's just like, hey, like, you need to be on the field, and like, you can't be a backup either, because like, hey, you got to be on the field.
Yeah.
Like, need you to stay healthy, and like, it's a variety of issues for him. I mean, hand and foot and shoulder, and like, yeah,
devastating knee injury. Devastating.
It sucks because we all like Cam Rising. We wanted to see Utah at full strength this year.
Yeah, that it was. All right, Josh Neighbors, Big 12 Watch. Josh, have a great weekend. Feel better, buddy.
Thank you, Paul.
Better.
I hope I feel better too.
Yeah.
I do too. See ya.
That is Josh Neighbors, Big 12 Watch. When we come back, it's the top 5.